This is the Cycling Over 60 podcast, Season 2, Episode 38, National Senior Health and Fitness Day, and I'm your host, Tom Butler. Thank you for tuning in to share in my journey to use cycling to get and stay fit after turning 60, and to hear from guests who I think can shed light on a wide array of topics related to that journey. The more exposed I get to information like what is in the book Nature Wants Us to Be Fat by Richard Johnson, the more convinced I am that decades of poor health choices have destroyed my metabolism. Specifically, I think I have lost a lot of mitochondria. Now, I know this naturally happens as I age, but I think I sped up the process immensely as I developed insulin resistance. So now I am very interested in mitochondrial biogenesis, or simply getting more mitochondrial function. Unfortunately, I don't think it is feasible for me to measure my mitochondria, so I have to do things that I only think will work. One of those things is high-intensity workouts. So this week, I started dialing in a route for high-intensity training. I have a route in mind. There's a route nearby that has a 1.6 mile section at about 2% average elevation gain. If I gear up, I can create an intense workout on that section. I have bought into the notion that high intensity is 70 to 90% of max heart rate. I have explored max heart rate on the podcast before, and I have never actually ended up with a number. However, going off of breathing and how I feel, I think that 170 beats per minute is around that 70 to 90% max range. So 170 beats per minute is going to be my target for now. Some people might disagree with me on this, but I find it hard to believe that high-intensity training has to be exact, especially when you're a 60-year-old overweight guy who isn't a professional athlete. Therefore, I am kind of doing this my way. My way means using some aspects of the Norwegian 4x4 workout. I figure you can Google it if you want to know specifically what it is and how it was developed. But here is my high-intensity workout for now. I start out by riding about 5 miles at a very light pace to the bottom of the 1.6 mile section I mentioned. Then I ride up, working to keep my heart rate at around 170 beats per minute. At the top, I turn around and basically coast to the bottom, then turn around and do it again. I am looking to do 3 minutes of recovery between my 170 beat per minute trips up. The 3 minutes is also taken from the Norwegian 4x4 model. I plan to climb 4 times, then finish with a light intensity ride of about 3 miles to home. When I tried the route this week, I only did 3 climbs. The total ride time was 1 hour and 13 minutes, with about 21 minutes of high intensity. The Norwegian 4x4 method is designed to be 16 minutes of intensity over 4 periods of exertion. I will be modifying the ride so that I can shave the intense sections to be a bit shorter and get it close to the 4-minute mark. Again, I'm not trying to be exact. I think with a little work, I will have a great intensity route. Now, if any of you are experts in the Norwegian 4x4 method, please reach out. I would love to have a discussion about it in the Cycling Over 60 Strava Club. With the addition of this intensity route, I have 3 types of training rides now. One is for fat burning. That is a long ride at very low intensity. The second is endurance training, where I'm keeping up a higher pace for 30 miles, and then this high intensity route. I would like to do all these rides weekly for at least a month and see what happens. On March 26, I posted in the Strava Club about the National Senior Health and Fitness Day. I am currently working on some kind of Strava event for that day. I wanted to know more about the day and the vision of the organizers, and I was able to get Gary Ford, the director of the event, to come on and answer some questions about it. Here is our discussion. Something that I love about hosting the podcast is we get to learn about things that otherwise I would have very little knowledge about. And today we are going to be joined by Gary Ford to help us do just that. Thanks for joining me, Gary.
I appreciate it. Thanks for inviting me.
And we're here to talk about National Senior Health and Fitness Day, which I love the whole concept. But first, I want to ask you, do you have any memories of biking as a kid?
Yes, and many fond ones. We lived near a creek, and my friends and I would get on the bikes and head down to the creek looking for crayfish or whatever else we could find in the creek. Many years ago, I don't think parents were quite as concerned about safety issues, so they let us go for hours at a time, and we biked to school nearby. So yes, many fond memories.
What area of the country was that?
I grew up in the Washington D.C. area, a town
Okay.
called Silver Spring, Maryland, and
Okay.
yeah,
Fantastic. Let's start out talking about National Senior Health and Fitness Day
sure.
by talking about Mature Market Research Center. And I
Mhm.
believe that's the organization behind the event.
Right. Our parent, we're based here in the Chicago suburbs, and our parent company is called American Custom Publishing, and we are a publisher that specializes in both senior markets and healthcare, consumer healthcare publications and programs. And we have two divisions. One is called the Health Information Resource Center, which is sort of a national clearinghouse for professionals who work in health, consumer health programs. And then we have the Mature Market Resource Center, which is a similar national clearinghouse for professionals who work in senior markets in various settings. We have four major programs at the Mature Market Resource Center, which Senior Day is one of them. But we also have two national award competitions. One's called the National Mature Media Awards. In fact, the deadline is this Friday. This is our 33rd annual competition, and we annually recognize the nation's best programs and materials developed for seniors and their families. We have another competition called the New Product and Technology Awards, which is a competition recognizing products and services and technologies for seniors and their families. And we have a program we've had for quite some time, but we're trying to resurrect it. It's called the Mature Fitness Awards. It's a recognition of fitness achievements by older adults, and we've had it on and off over the years, and it needs some revising, but we're hoping to bring that back either this year or early next.
To have a mature market resource center, it seems like that implies that the mature market is unique. Is that a correct assumption?
You may have heard the statistic. I think 10,000 adults are turning 60 or 65 every day. The baby boomers are still aging quite quickly. So it's a very significant market. I think the fastest growing percent of the population in the U.S. now is adults over 85. So it is important. And again, for marketers, obviously there's issues related to senior housing, but also economics. These older adults have a lot of money. They don't like to spend on their grandchildren or on other activities.
Right. And it seems like as I get older, kind of the way that I look at the world and the things that I see as important and all kinds of things change. And so it seems like that's something that if you're creating products and services for that demographic, you have to take into account those things as well.
Well, it is a political issue. If you look at Social Security and Medicare, they occupy a huge portion of the federal budgets. So it's also an issue that's not going to go away, and with more and more older adults aging in and being eligible for those programs.
Right. National Senior Health and Fitness Day is always the last Wednesday of May,
Right.
I read.
Mhm.
And that means that the 29th of May is this year's
Right.
day. This is the 31st edition. That means it started in the early 90s.
Yes. In fact, if you don't mind, I'll give you a quick brief
Yeah.
history. Once we had set up the our company, and we had run across a program. This goes back many, many years out of Indianapolis called National Employee Health and Fitness Day. And it was very, very popular. The group that ran it was a trade association. For most states have a state health and fitness council or sports council. And this is the trade association at the time of these state organizations. And the director of that had a very successful employee health and fitness day. I believe it was also in May at the time. We knew him from some other activities, and we said, we love your idea, but you're not reaching those who aren't working. So we went down, met with him for a day or two at the time, and he was very helpful with us in terms of taking some of his concepts and developing a national health and wellness recognition day for older adults. And it just took off immediately. We introduced it right away, and we had several hundred groups immediately participate. And we decided to fix it. As you said, it's always the last Wednesday in May. So our local groups know that Last Wednesday in May is always National Senior Health and Fitness Day. It's also Older Americans Month, which is a big month celebrated by groups. And it's also, I think, National Physical Fitness and Sports Month, Arthritis Month, or May and October are big months for health-related organizations. So
There has been a lot of cultural shifts over the last 30 plus years. And when you launched, was there a different concept of senior fitness then than what we see today?
I don't know if it's any different, but it's just been evolving and just growing in importance. I know one thing you recognize as you get older that you should pay more attention to your health, and if you're interested in staying as long as you can in this world, and it's become important among consumer product companies as well as retirement communities, and how important that health and wellness programs are for their communities as well. So I think it's just evolved. Trying to think what's different from what we started 31 years ago. I think it's just the increased attention being paid on this.
When you launched, did you have some specific goals?
Yeah, one of our primary goals, and this is what the Employee Health and Fitness Day did years ago, is to really recognize what local organizations are doing in their communities to promote health and wellness among older adults. And the types of organizations that host events, generally there's 4 or 5 major categories. We have senior centers, retirement communities, a lot of park and recreation districts, houses of worship, local, they're called area agencies on aging, which fund senior programs around the country, retirement communities. Medicare health plans are a big supporter of the event because that's obviously one of their goals is to keep their members healthy. And by being involved in this type of program, that helps promote that. And there's some other miscellaneous groups, but those are the major Wise and health clubs, that kind of thing.
Did this grow at all out of a personal interest in health and fitness?
A little bit, but I think it was more that as a business, we saw a need that was not being filled and filled it. And as I said, it took off right away, and we've been busy ever since. We went to there's a group called if you're familiar with it, called the American Society on Aging, or ASA, out of San Francisco. They just had their conference last month, and we went to exhibit at their conference, and we knew right away that this is going to be a popular event. There wasn't anything that was giving national recognition to all the local efforts that were being done to help promote health and wellness.
The event highlights what local organizations are doing to improve health of older adults in their communities. How would you rate the availability of senior fitness activities at the local level?
That has increased, I think, over the years significantly. If I could step back and just explain how our process works, the National Senior Health and Fitness Day name and logo are federal trademarks. So organizations that would like to host a local event have to register with us in order to legally use the name and logo. And we have a small event registration fee, $35 per location. But one of our national sponsors underwrites the cost of that. So many of our organizations are able to register for free. Once they register, they're given access to a website that has all the materials and programs and ideas for them to put together an event. We have official event promotion items that they can purchase from us. And we have a weekly newsletter that goes out, and we share in the weekly newsletter what other locations are doing around the country.
I think $35 is like extremely reasonable.
Oh, yes.
So,
and being free is even better. So, yeah. So it's,
right. So what are some examples of local things that will happen on the 29th?
It's amazing. As I said to some of our organizations, since we've been around 31 years, if you simply Google National Senior Health and Fitness Day, you'll see a variety of activities that have gone on over the years with the event. I think many of our groups, and again, they fall in the category of the Wise and health clubs, the senior centers, the retirement communities. They like to have an activity of some sort. So it could be a walking event, bicycling events, and many of them have mini health fairs where they bring in vendors from the local community and have a health fair available to do blood pressure testing or other kinds of testing. They'll have people come in and give lectures and presentations on nutrition and diet and so on, and exercise ideas. We're always amazed every year by the variety of different activities that our local groups organized. We've had, I think this is passed as a fad, but we've had several senior day flash mobs, and so there's some really creative things. We've had groups who do their senior day activity with high school seniors. They have a exercise activity that involves kids and seniors. For the retirement communities, they often will have events just for their residents, or they may have an event that they offer to the public so that for would-be residents can come in and see what's going on in terms of what they're doing for health and wellness activities. But
I can testify that going out and searching, you see a lot of different events. And one thing you see is screenings.
mm-hmm,
And it
absolutely.
seems like that's a popular thing for.
Yeah, when I say mini health fair, it's often a very popular part of this. They have the screenings and so on available. Yeah. I don't think I mentioned a lot of hospitals and health systems also have events because obviously it's in their interest to make seniors in their communities aware of what services they have available for staying healthy and fit.
Do you think that there are some common misconceptions about senior fitness?
I think early on, when we first started the event, there were some misconceptions that you're too old to exercise or be active and you shouldn't be doing that, which is completely to the contrary of what scientific and medical evidence shows. I think over the years with our event, more and more, we've seen more and more older adults engaged in a variety of other activities, not just walking activities, but biking and exercise demonstrations and so on. But there's a wide variety of creative ideas that we see every year.
I think that there has been a lot more awareness that you can be fit later on in life.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that seeing a senior age group flash mob dancing, I still think that people would be like, wow, that's unique. That's different, and it makes me want to find something like that to participate in. But
and I contrast I don't know if you're familiar with it, but there's a terrific group called the National Senior Games Association. And they host the what used to be called the Senior Olympics. I think they ran into trademark issues with that, but they host their games, I think, every 2 years, and they do a terrific job. One of the big differentiating points between our event and the Senior Games is that the Senior Games is by its nature a competitive activity, and we in no way want to talk about competition. We want to talk about how fitness and exercise is good for you as an individual. So when they have their senior games every several years, they get a lot of attention because you're watching 80-year-olds running a 50-yard dash or doing these kinds of activities, and it's great. But we're and that's terrific for that maybe 5 or 10% of the older adult population who's interested in competitive activities. But for the other 90%, they're really interested in finding out ways they can be stay healthier and fit, and we're really focused on that through the organizations who are hosting the events because they're already doing this in their communities.
Right. Fantastic. Do you think about at all, or do you hear from other people about what the impact on society would be if we had a significant percentage of older people staying fit later in life?
Well, I know that the Medicare agency, CMS, would be delighted if people are staying healthier because they are getting older, and if they are staying healthy and fit, they're going to minimize some of the healthcare costs that are associated with lifestyle issues. As someone that said, I've forgotten the exact quote, but physical activity is sort of a magic bullet, and people need to realize that, and it becomes more of a realization as you do get older. But physical activity has a tremendous amount of impact on a variety of health concerns and health issues for seniors. And I think people are more aware of it now, but it needs to be reinforced all the time. And that's one of the reasons we have the event every year.
The fitness industry is a big industry,
mm-hmm. Yes,
and there's a lot of different components to it. Do you think that the value of the senior market is really understood by that space now, or is there still room for them to understand why people stay fit later in life?
I think that has been growing over the years. I don't know if you're familiar with a group called the International Council for Active Aging, or ICAA. I think they're actually out in Vancouver, Canada, and they have an annual conference every year. And that's a professional organization of those who are interested in older adult health and fitness. Primarily, most of it's focused on residential communities. But companies are aware that this is something important to them, and it could be a growth area for them.
I really see like a lot of YouTube videos, other social media where they're older, fit people that are sharing knowledge out there. It seems like that's a channel that a lot of information is being distributed by.
Hmm. I agree.
On October 26th last year, I had Kevin McNamara, who's an experienced senior living administrator, on the podcast. And you mentioned senior living facilities, and I was really impressed with everything that they do, including contests and all kinds of things to help their residents maintain a high level of fitness, or as high level fitness as possible. It sounds like you're seeing that across the industry, that's kind of a standard.
Yeah, the one thing I think over the years we've seen, particularly with all the residential or retirement communities that are involved in the event every year, is that these are groups competing for older adults to join their community, and they've over the years have had to increase the health and wellness activities that they have at the community. It could be something as simple as they have an exercise room and special classes and so on. But that's become very important. I don't think you can successfully market a retirement community today without having a significant health and wellness component to the program. Medicare Advantage plans, which is about half of all, I think right now about half of all seniors who are in Medicare are members of Medicare Advantage plans, the Medicare HMOs, the Humanas, the United Healthcare, and so on. They all have early on put together a fitness program. And I don't know if you're familiar with Silver Sneakers or Silver and Fit or Renew Active, but years ago, a very sharp woman, and I think she was in Phoenix, as Medicare HMOs or Medicare Advantage plans were being introduced, they all wanted to have a fitness component or health and wellness component, but they did not want to build their own facilities. So she was able to, and she started in Phoenix area in Arizona, contact local Ys and health clubs and say, look, you're not very busy mid-morning, mid-afternoon. You're busy, before work, during lunch, and after work. What if I could bring in older adults during those quiet hours? I'll put some special programming together, and then we'll pay you a small fee to do that. And she went around, signed up Ys and health clubs in her area, and then packaged that and approached the Medicare health plans, and it just took off right away. Silver Sneakers was a huge success, and much like McDonald's and Burger King, Silver Sneakers gave exclusivity to the Medicare health plans they worked with. So if one Medicare plan in say, Washington had a Silver Sneakers contract, they could not, their competitors couldn't have it. So then a group out of San Diego called American Specialty Health developed a program called Silver and Fit, which was the Burger King to the McDonald's. And then United Healthcare is the largest of all of the Medicare Advantage plans. They had for years contracted with Silver Sneakers or Silver and Fit. They decided 4 or 5 years ago to create their own contracts it's called Renew Active. So they have their own system. But all of these Medicare plans are contracting with local organizations that are already there, the health club chains, the Ys. I think someone told me almost 25% of all YMCAs in the country have contracts with some of these Medicare Advantage plans, or these Silver and Fit or Silver Sneakers.
Makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, the Y being a community focused organization, I think that seems like a natural thing for them to do. You mentioned something that made me think about there's a specific choice that to do the event on a Wednesday, and because that's a slow period. Can you talk about that a bit?
Yes, that's a very good one. I'm glad you mentioned that. When we were looking at what day to do the event, our retail, and we've had CVS and others as sponsors, our retailers said Wednesdays are typically very slow days for us. So if you can have activities that bring people to our stores, to our pharmacies, we'd be very interested in that. So, and again, if you're retired, the day isn't an issue for you. You've got time on your hands. So we took the advice of our retail sponsors and others and set that for Wednesday. And then, as I said, we fixed on the last Wednesday of the month, just so it's all of our local people always know that that's going to be Senior Health and Fitness Day.
I like that. And in my mind, it's kind of like, okay, we've got a Wednesday a year that we can take over those businesses, So take advantage of it, look for ways to participate.
We've had some interest, and we're not quite sure yet, of having a fall event and a senior. We'd have a spring senior day in late May, and then a fall event in late October. We're still discussing that. We may test it this year, but it would be the last Wednesday in October. What's interesting for that is our Medicare Advantage plan sponsors and groups. The Medicare open enrollment season starts October 15th to December 7th. So that's right in the middle of their enrollment season, which is attractive to them.
Yeah, it's interesting.
When you talk about the Medicare plans, if you watch the advertising in the fall, once they launch during the open enrollment season, almost all of them talk about health club membership as one of the benefits of joining the plan. Although the Medicare agency is cutting back on some of the reimbursement, so they may have to modify that. But I don't think that's going to be going to happen.
I think, like other organizations, you were impacted by COVID, and I'm wondering if there's like a virtual aspect that grew out of that.
We had we almost for 2 years we had to again, this is an event where people go somewhere or attend it, and when COVID hit, we had to rethink everything. So we converted the event to a series of virtual activities, and with our local communities did that. I think 20 and 21, and then we gradually, as immunizations became more widely used, we were able to build back to what we have now, which is back to the original concept, which is people going to events in their communities and participating together.
Are there some virtual aspects that have lived on?
Some, but I think people like the idea of getting together, physically and engaging in activities. And we encourage that as much as possible.
I think that makes total sense. Do you have any stories that you share that illustrates the impact of National Senior Health and Fitness Day on participants?
We're expecting about 100,000 seniors and about 1,000 groups, organizations hosting events at the end of next month. Since we have so many, we get survey data back and ask people for their comments and suggestions. There's so many, nothing comes immediately to mind, but we have situations where, politicians love older adults because they vote. And quite often our local organizations, and we provide resources to do that, will have a proclamation as the mayor or the governor will announce this is Senior Health and Fitness Day, and they'll come into the event and give a speech and so on. So that it's very popular with elected officials around the country.
Right. Is there some interest internationally?
We had some participation from Canadian groups, but we have not really gone outside the U.S. for this. We haven't. We've had plenty of work here in the U.S. to work at.
Yeah. A lot of places, there's just totally different structure culturally and from healthcare and everything. So it would be different. How would you think that maybe the cycling over 60 community could celebrate the day?
Well, we'd love to. If you have local groups who'd like to participate in the event, as I said, they can go to our website, it's fitnessday.com, and they can still register for free if they'd like to host an event or hold an event. And we welcome their participation. Or we can put members or your group in touch with local events that are going on in their communities to see if they want to participate or organize something on that basis.
We have a Strava group. It's pretty small. I don't know if you're familiar with Strava, but it's something that you log into and you can upload your ride data to Strava. And so we have a Cycling Over 60 Strava club, which again is fairly small. But on Strava, you can make events. And so one thing I was thinking is just to do an event where anything that you do, and we're cycling focused, cycling centric. And so it's like if you ride on May 29th and you celebrate National Senior Health and Fitness Day that way, then it would enter you into a drawing. How do you feel about that? Do you think that that's a decent way to do it?
That's something I think I mentioned earlier, that one of our programs we've had for a while, but we're working on reconstructing it, is this Mature Fitness Awards program, which is a very similar concept. They would either online or when we started years ago, it was on paper. They would record their various activities, and over for what the exercise physiologists tell us, it's about a 16-week 4-month period to demonstrate a significant achievement in fitness capacity or increase in fitness capacity. So that kind of thing, as we put together, reconstruct our mature fitness awards, be something that we could include cycling in that as well.
Yeah, the focus is not competition for this day.
Right, right.
And so I think that, I wouldn't do something like who rode the most miles that day or something like that. I think just doing anything, participating in any ride would qualify for it.
Yeah, and for the local groups that register with us, we have, I said, we have official event promotional materials. We also have a nice certificate that they can give out to the attendees. And that doesn't cost anything, and recognizing that they participated or been involved in an activity during National Senior Health and Fitness Day.
What are some of the aspirations you have for future events?
Well, as I said, we're discussing the concept of maybe having a fall counterpart to the event. And I think it's just our challenge is to continue to have discussions with local groups who are involved or not familiar with the event and how it can help them every year. And then we also have said national and state event sponsors that help underwrite the cost of the event. So we're always continuing to contact them and make them aware of what we're doing.
Do you feel like your penetration is up there, or do you feel like there's still a lot of places out there that aren't participating?
We're a small organization, and there's plenty of room for growth. For example, I believe the Silver Sneakers group that contracts with the Medicare health plans has about 8 or 10,000 or more local health clubs and Ys that offer these offer health services through the Medicare plan. So we've had discussions with them and with the Silver and Fit and others. So there's plenty of growth, and we're just trying to continue to do that, continue to grow it, and as I said, the local groups who have the events every year really like the fact that we're giving them a day that they can talk about in the community to showcase what they're doing in terms of their fitness programming.
You also mentioned politicians being involved. How much do you think it's embraced by state, local governments? Do you feel like there's a lot of growth there as well?
Yeah, for example, park districts are very active. They've been one of our sponsors. The National Recreation Park Association has been one of our event sponsors, so that they very much, like I said, having an event showing off. Many park districts over the last 10, 20 years have built some really nice facilities for their communities, and many of them have a senior center component or their activities for seniors. So they like to use the event to show off what they're doing, what they currently offer. And as I said, politicians love older adults because they do vote. And so they're more than happy to come to an event, talk about it, and meet the seniors who are participating in it.
So I think there might be something really fun that we can put together up here.
Yeah, and I think, again, it's just an observation from a distance, but I think a lot of older adults may be concerned as they're older with arthritis or knee issues that cycling isn't for them, or it could be dangerous if they fall. But keeping active, and even if you have arthritis, continuing to exercise is a very important part of any therapy to help improve your activity.
Yeah, we're seeing so much benefit from e-bikes too, as far as being able to stay mobile. Well, one more time, just let people know how to get information and how to get signed up, things like that.
Yeah, the website is really for organizations, not for individuals. Excuse me, about the event, and it's fitnessday.com. But individuals who are interested in finding out activities in their area, they can email us at info@fitnessday.com, and we'll get back to them with events that might be in their area that they would like to participate in.
Perfect. And I'll put links for that in the show notes as well. Now, how about you? Do you have any goals for your personal fitness?
Well, my knees are slowly getting worse, but I have a dog who needs to be walked twice a day, which is helpful. I haven't been biking for a while, but would like to get back to doing that. So my goal is to continue staying active so I can walk the dog twice a day and do some other activities as well.
Well, I learn more and more all the time, of course. The podcast helps with that as far as different bikes, different bike technology that can help. My wife just got a recumbent bike, a cruise bike, recumbent bike, and that helps her with some of her physical problems. So, yeah, hopefully you'll find something there. Well, Gary, this has been fantastic. I learned a lot about something that I came across online, and it really piqued my interest. So appreciate you coming on and sharing all the information and what you're doing.
So thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
All right. Take care. Talk later.
Thank you.
I think it's great that Gary and others recognize the need to highlight local resources of health and fitness activities for seniors. I'm definitely going to try and contribute to the awareness, if possible, starting this year. So keep an eye out for information on my efforts to create some kind of Strava event. Gary brought up the National Senior Games, and I would love to hear from anyone who has participated in the past or is planning to do so next time. The next games will be held in Des Moines, Iowa during July and August of 2025. I can't help but dream of being a part of it someday. Of course, I would have to discover some miracle training routine to do that, but it would be awesome. I looked up some 2023 results just for fun. There were a bunch of results, so I'll just share some from my age group. For women aged 60 to 64, the winning time for the 20K road race was 34 minutes, 56 seconds, and 4/10. That was 1/10 of a second over second place and 2/10 over third. That sounds like a battle for the line to me. That is an average speed of 21.3 miles per hour. For men aged 60 to 64, the winning time was 31 minutes, 32 seconds, and 3/10. That was a 2/10 of a second advantage over second place. That average speed was 23.7 miles per hour. Something else that I thought was interesting is that the 80 to 84-year-old women's race had only 2 riders. The winning time was 50 minutes, 1 second, and 5/10. That was a 14.9 miles per hour average. The men's race had someone who was 96 and did a 10.4 mile pace. The 80 to 84 men's division had 13 riders. The winning time was 34 minutes, 28 seconds, and 3/10. The exact time of second place. That translates to 21.6 miles per hour. I don't think I would do a road race at that age, but maybe by the time I get there, I will change my mind. And there is also time trials. I could maybe see doing a time trial. I hope you are motivated to stay as strong as you can as you continue to ride. The more I learn, the more I am motivated to keep working on my fitness. And remember, age is just a gear change.